Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head back to Spain once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel once before. Now, the last review that I did involving these guys was actually an out and about video, and I really enjoyed visiting this brewery's tap room, but it's quite exciting to now be able to do a sit down review of one of their beers, because usually we do things the other way around on the channel. We get one of the brewery's beers, then we go and visit the tap room, but yeah, here we are. But this brewery are a very well established and very well respected name within their local craft beer scene. They do a lot of different styles, and I was really quite impressed with the beers that I tried from them during that out and about video. So I'm quite curious to do a kind of more in-depth tasting for you here on the channel now. But the beer that we're going to have a look at from them today is a style that I don't think I've tried from this brewery before. This one was recommended to me by the lovely Adriana, who was working the tap room that day at the brewery, and she seemed to really know her stuff, but she said that she really enjoys this one, so a big shout out to her in this video. But yeah, it is a style that the brewery is supposed to be very good at, so needless to say, I'm very curious to see what it's going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, like I said, we are going to return to Spain. We're going to go to the Andalucia region in the south of the country, the city of Seville, Sevilla as you would say, and that means that we're going to have a look at my first sit-down beer from Cervezas Río Azul, or Blue River Brewing as they sometimes call themselves when they anglicise it. But yeah, this particular beer is called Creamfields. It comes in at 6.2% ABV, and this one is a pineapple and passion fruit milkshake sour. So yeah, I think this should be really quite interesting. I think I tried a berry sour from these guys during the out and about video, and that was pretty nice actually, so I'm really curious to see what a more kind of yellow or tropical sour from them is going to be like as well. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. The Creamfields, a 6.2% pineapple and passion fruit milkshake sour from Cervezas Río Azul in Seville, Andalucia in the south of Spain. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I'll do in the future, hopefully from Cervezas Río Azul. The very first time I'm doing a sit-down review from these guys as I mentioned, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Spanish playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to fairly regularly at the moment because I'm working my way through the Spanish beers that I brought back with me during the summer. But do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a little bit about Cervezas Río Azul for the very first time. So, I will apologise in advance as well for any bad Spanish pronunciations on this one, but let's just go for it and give it a try. So, Cervezas Río Azul, or Blue River Brewing as they sometimes call themselves, are based in Sevilla in Spain, and the company was founded back in 2015 by Eloy del Rio. So he was born in Sevilla back in 1982, and he serves as the head brewer and manager of the company, but he originally studied geography all the way to the doctorate level at Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona. So yeah, not Universidad because it's the Catalan language up there of course, but yeah, a PhD in geography, which is pretty impressive. But apparently Eloy's journey into the world of craft beer began during his travels to different countries where he was exploring the local craft beer scenes. So this led him to actually pursue formal training at the Institute of Brewing and Distilling in the UK, and then he went on to study as a brewer for the brewing certificate at the University of Alicante, which I've noticed quite a few brewers in this region seem to do. But he also gained practical experience at Birrificio Amiata in Toscana in Italy, and he was collaborating with a lot of local brewers there and developing his own recipes. In addition to this, he's also a certified beer judge, and he gained his qualification from the Beer Judge Certification Programme BJCP over in the US. But the brewery's name, Rio Azul, or Blue River as it would be in English, is apparently a tribute to Eloy's father, whose name Del Rio means of the river, and it's also intended to reflect the significance of the Guadalquivir River, which runs through Seville, and basically they want to symbolise a connection to the local area. And Eloy said that he was quite inspired by Sierra Nevada brewing in the US and really wanted to create a brand that paid tribute to the local community and to the local nature, which, you know, Sierra Nevada obviously really do. But the brewery itself can be found in the Hitasa industrial estate in the Cerro de Aguila, which is the Hill of the Eagle neighbourhood, and the brewery has 1,100 square metres of space, and it's in a former warehouse that was renovated quite extensively to accommodate the brewing operations as well as the brewery's tap room. And if you go to the brewery tap room, you'll see that there's some lovely artwork on the walls there. That was decorated by the artist Sergio Gomez, who's known artistically as Serger. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly because I really have no idea. Serger, yeah, really don't know. But yeah, he was the guy. Sergio Gomez is the guy who decorated and did all the big murals and stuff inside the brewery. Now, they initially had about 300,000 euros to fund the brewery, and this allowed them to install one of the largest breweries in the Andalucia region. They brew around 1,800 hectolitres per batch, and current production apparently reaches around 70,000 litres per year, but there are plans to grow this further. The other thing to point out about this brewery is that they allow a lot of other gypsy brewers to come in and brew their stuff there as well, actually. Reina del Soho are one who'll feature on the channel a little bit later from Malaga, and they brew a number of their beers at Cervezas Río Azul as well. But the tap room at the brewery opened in October of 2017. There's 8 taps there of Rio Azul beers, and sometimes they've got some beers from other local breweries as well, and they can host up to 100 people in that space, and they host different events and things like that from what I understand as well. If you want to check out that and see what it looks like, you can check out my out and about video that I did there quite recently. But as of October 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 165 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and that number will no doubt continue to increase as time goes on. But yeah, that is everything I can tell you about Cerveza Rio Azul, or Blue River Brewing as they might call themselves sometimes as well. These guys are a very, very nice company, and as I say, a big shout out to Adriana at the brewery tap room for hosting us when we were there. But yeah, if you want to learn more about this brewery, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can check out the Untappd page as well to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. But yeah, we can take a deep breath now and we can actually go on and focus on the beer. So yeah, like I mentioned to you earlier, this one comes in at 6.2% ABV. They're describing it as a passionfruit and pineapple, or pineapple and passionfruit, sorry, milkshake sour. Should be really quite nice, this one. The artwork on it is pretty straightforward, of course, a little bit retro. It kind of reminds me of some of the kind of 70s hippie kind of movements and things like that, or was that the 60s? I really don't quite know. But yeah, there you can see Creamfields on the bottom, and on the back of the can there you can see the Rio Azul brewery symbol there. But yeah, nicely presented can, this one. This is 440 millilitres, and it says, yeah, brewed and canned in Seville, and the artwork in this one is by Alcius, so I'm guessing that is one of the local artists or something there. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass then and see what we have. Yeah, the Creamfields from Cerveza Rio Azul. Oh, there we go. Quite a bit of carbon dioxide built up in that one. There we go. A little bit of spill, but yeah, behaved itself quite well. I think we only lost a few millilitres there, but yeah, there we are. Let's get this guy out into the glass, and we'll just try and pour it a little bit carefully, because yeah, as we say, there was a wee bit of excitement from this can there, and you can see that just as we're pouring it there. But I can tell you, it has been refrigerated for most of the time that we've had it. So yeah, obviously that is one of the risks you have when you bring back fruit sours from other countries. But yeah, we didn't lose too much, maybe 20 millilitres or something like that. But yeah, anyway, there you are. So we've got the beer out and into the glass. You can see it poured with about a quarter finger of a frothy kind of perfect white head, but yeah, that's fading away very, very quickly to just leave nothing. You can see that there if we bring it up to the camera. You can see some soapy bubbles just sitting around the edge of the glass there, but yeah, they will disappear in the next few minutes, I'm sure. But yeah, there's a fair little bit of visible carbonation in this one, and obviously that's just due to the CO2 buildup in the can there. But yeah, it looks pretty nice actually. Yeah, you can see the bubbles just coming up and breaking the surface there. But yeah, in terms of colour then, I would describe this one as being quite akin to a sort of tropical fruit juice, which makes sense when there's pineapple and passion fruit in there. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few different things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, the length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. And when it comes to the sort of fruited sours like this, obviously the fruits that you use in these beers are going to play a significant role in deciding what colour of beer you're going to get. But yeah, the passion fruit and the pineapple in this one I don't think would affect it too much, because these kind of beers are obviously going to come out a naturally sort of yellow colour. But obviously the shade that you get from this will be determined by those kind of fruity adjuncts that go into the beer. In terms of the sort of opacity and stuff for this one, that will be down to the presence of wheat and oats in the beer, I'm sure, and also the presence of the fruit. But yeah, in terms of appearance, when we consider what style of beer this one is, there's nothing particularly surprising about this one for me. We've seen sort of tropical fruited sours that look like this before. So yeah, I don't think we really need to say too much more about the appearance of this one, but I would say, yeah, on the surface you can see the CO2 just coming out of the beer quite readily there. It looks very, very nice, I have to say. But yeah, I think appearance wise, nothing overly surprising about this one. So let's go on and have a wee look at the aroma of this beer then, and just see what it's going to have in store for us. But I got a nice whiff of it when we opened up the can. It did seem absolutely lovely. So let's dive into the aroma and see what we get here then. Alright, okay. Now, I'm going to say straight away, this beer, it's not a smoothie sour. We can kind of tick off that box if you like, or cross that one out very, very early on. This one is definitely leaning more toward that kind of kettle sour end of the sour beer spectrum, but the aroma of this is absolutely great. And as I've often said, these kind of fruited sour beers, quite often they're quite straightforward in terms of their aroma and flavour profile, but they're just really, really nice to drink, especially in hotter countries like Spain. I can see why these would be quite popular. So yeah, aroma wise, this one again is pretty straightforward, but I think it just goes together really, really nicely. And it's giving you everything you want. There's a wee bit of malty backbone, you've got the juicy fruits in there, a little tiny touch of hoppy character I would say as well. And yeah, you've got all the fruity adjuncts coming out of this one. So yeah, let's just break the aroma of this beer down a little bit then, and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth before we taste it. So yeah, the backbone of the beer, it's got this lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crusty character to it. There's a wee bit of woodiness coming out of this one. So yeah, fresh white bready bread crust in there, a little bit of woody character, some Jacob's cream cracker as well. I do get a little hint of wholemeal brown bread coming out of this beer, but it's quite a sweet wholemeal brown bready character, and I would add that that is very, very minimal in this beer. That's just a very, very small element of it. But yeah, on top of that, there's fluffy white bready character in this one, and the bready character is actually kind of sweet, to be honest with you, and you can smell that more dense, wheaty white bready character to it as well, which comes across as very smooth. If they're calling this one a milkshake sour, I'm guessing that there's lactose in here. Let me just have a wee look at the ingredients list in this one. Yeah, there is lactose in this one, and it definitely has hops because it says lupulose. But yeah, it looks, yeah, it's basically saying puree of the different fruits as well. But yeah, the bready character in this one, you definitely get that wheaty sort of note out of it, and it's very, very smooth because of the additional lactose. And when you put lactose in these beers, it kind of gives you the impression of like a kind of vanilla yogurty type character. So yeah, with that wheaty white bready note that you've got in here, there's definitely some oaty character in there as well, which is quite creamy. But that combination of the lactose, the wheat and the oats is absolutely giving you this kind of vanilla yogurty kind of character to the beer. It reminds me of the Muller Corner yogurts, in fact. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together in this one, I think, is really very, very nice. So gets a big thumbs up from me in that particular regard. So yeah, in the malty base, there's maybe just a little touch of like Werther's original butter candy butterscotch and a tiny little hint of biscuit there. There is a wee hint of brown sugary character coming out of this one, that's for sure. But yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is really very, very nice. So yeah, lovely malty character coming out of this one. In terms of the yeasty side of the beer, for me, I would say that the yeasty side of this beer, it's kind of similar to the malty side of things, but it's got a wee bit more fruitiness to it. So at the back of the nose, there's a wee bit of wholemeal brown bready character in the yeasty side of things, a fluffier white bready note out of it as well. And then yeah, you have that, yeah, you've got a little bit of that kind of fresh white bready bread crust coming out of the beer, which I think, again, I think is very, very nice in this one. So that gets a big thumbs up from me as well. Yeah, is there anything more we can really say about the yeasty side of things in this one? Don't really know, to be honest with you. But yeah, the malty and yeasty side of this beer, I think, is really quite nice. It gives you that sort of, it's got a bit more, it kind of reminds me of some of the fruited wheat beers that I've had over the years, but it's also got a little bit of that, yeah, it's also got a little bit of that more kind of yogurty sort of character to it as well, which I do really quite like. Yeah, really nice mix of things going on in this one. But yeah, let's go on to the hoppy and fruity side of things with this beer then. So as we said, this beer does have a little bit of hop in it, because it tells you that on the ingredients list there. As I've said in many sour beer reviews before, it's always interesting to ask sour beer brewers about their hopping mentality. When it comes to the original sour beers, you know, the Belgian Lambics and the Flanders Reds and things like that, I think we can count the German Goses and stuff, and the Berliner Weisses in there as well. But yeah, when it comes to that, what the brewers always used to do was add older hops into the beers that had lost a little bit of their alpha acid potency, and the reason for that was that they didn't want the bitterness of the hops to detract from the sourness of the beer. So yeah, but these days, a lot of more modern sour beer brewers, they will argue that adding fruit adjuncts into the beer is going to suppress the green component anyway, so why even bother adding hops into the beer? But you have got other brewers who will say it gives you a little bit more depth of flavour. So yeah, if you're talking to sour beer brewers, ask them what their hopping mentality is. I mean, in Sweden, the likes of Fermenterarna, Elma Livin and these kind of guys, they didn't add hops into their smoothie sour beers, whereas the likes of Vault City and Holy Goat back in the motherland of Scotland, they always would, and obviously these guys are doing that as well. So with this one, you definitely do get a little bit of green component coming out of the beer. For me, there's a little touch of, yeah, there's a little touch of earthiness coming out of this one as well. But wee bit of woody character, lovely floral aromaticity, and you've got that brighter kind of grassy character coming out of the beer as well, which I think is really very, very nice. So yeah, the green component in this one is absolutely present there, but you can feel a little bit of the passion fruit and the pineapple just pushing against that, and I'm sure we'll get more of that in the flavour. Now when it comes to the fruity side of the beer, obviously you can smell the kind of brighter juicy pineapple and the softer passion fruit, but underneath that there are little other things coming out which will be from the hoppy side of the beer. So yeah, for me, there's definitely a little bit of a kind of apricot-y note to it. There's a wee touch of like oily pear and things like that, maybe even a little bit of sultana. These are all little notes that you can pick up underneath the fruity adjunct part of the beer. But all in all, it goes together really very nicely, this one, and I like how everything pieces together in this beer. So yeah, as I always say, just take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of your beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it probably is about time for us to try this one now. So let me just put the last of the can into the glass here. We managed to do that cleanly, so I'm quite happy with that. But let's have a taste of this one now and see how it goes. I always say take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of your beer before you get stuck into it. But yeah, this one is the Creamfields, a 6.2% pineapple and passionfruit milkshake sour from Cervezas Río Azul in Seville, Andalucia in the south of Spain. Let's have a taste of this and see how we go. Slange, skål, cheers, salut. Okay, I'm going to say straight away, this one does have a wee bit of zip to it. When you take it in, and there's obviously quite a bit of carbonation in this one because we've had the can a wee while. But yeah, when you take this beer in, it actually does have a little bit of that kind of sharper kettle sour type quality to it, which is quite interesting. And this beer, when they say it's like a milkshake sour, I think yeah, it's got the kind of milkshake flavour to it, but not necessarily quite the milkshake sour mouthfeel, if you like. This one's actually quite light and quite drinkable. So in a sense, that makes sense because the beer is from Spain, which is obviously a pretty damn hot country, and especially in the south in Andalucia, it's going to be like that. But yeah, it is a very, very smooth and just nice drinking summer beer, this one. So it gets a thumbs up from me, but this one I would say has a little bit more kettle sour quality to it than milkshake sour in my personal opinion. But it does give you it does give you quite a bit of that milkshake sour flavour profile. So maybe about 40% milkshake sour, 60% 60% kettle sour for me, something like that. But the question should always be, is it a nice beer? And the answer is absolutely yes. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this again. And the berry one that I tried at the brewery was quite like this as well, and I enjoyed that too. So obviously they can do these kind of kettle slash milkshake sour type beers really quite well. So let's break this one down then and describe the flavour for you a little bit more in depth, as we always do. So yeah, the backbone of this beer, if you go to that middle third of your palate, then you get that lovely, fresh, white bready bread crust in there. As you move further forward, there's that little touch of woody character that I always seem to get from pretty much any beer that I try. So yeah, you've got that fresh white bready bread crust, a little bit of woody character. There's a wee hint of Jacob's cream cracker in there. Then I do get just a little touch of a more wholemeal, brown bready character coming out of this one. But the next layer up, you get that big, fluffy, fresh, white bready character from the barley malt in there. And it's got a fair degree of sweetness to it actually. You can feel the lactose kind of mixing in with that and giving you an almost like vanilla flavour. You probably could argue that it's a little bit like a vanilla sponge cake, although I would say that layer comes out a little bit further up. So definitely, yeah, fluffy, fresh, white bready layer on top of that kind of wholemeal brown bready character. Then you've got the more dense, wheaty, white bready note coming out of it. But then, yeah, you've also got this kind of like vanilla sponge cakey sort of layer sitting in there as well. So definitely, as I've always said, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out a little bit further back. And yeah, you can definitely get that with the wheaty part of this beer. Smoother further forward, but a little bit bitier further back. And then, yeah, the almost vanilla sponge cakey type quality that sits on top of that kind of just adds a wee bit of sweetness into the beer as well. The next layer up is of course the oaty side of this beer, and that's where you start to get the really kind of vanilla yogurty type flavours coming out. So let's focus on that for a minute. So yeah, for me, the oaty side of this beer, down the middle line of your palate, you get a lovely little bit of creamy oaty character in there. Then as you move out toward the edges of your palate, it shows you just a little bit of dryness, and you have got a wee bit of an almost kind of like sherbety, zippy kind of thing coming out of this beer on top of that as well. So yeah, the oaty character is definitely there, the vanilla kind of spongy notes are coming out, and yeah, the way that that all goes together is really quite interesting. But yeah, in the dead centre of your palate you can feel that little circle there, which is the kind of Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch, and there's a wee bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity note just around the edge of that. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together in this one, I think is really quite nice. The malt base in this one is quite almost, it's almost kind of crisp in a way, and that makes that's what makes it more of a kettle sour than a milkshake sour for me. For it to be a milkshake sour, it just has to be that little bit sort of smoother. But you can definitely feel within all of these layers, particularly into the aftertaste, you start to get a little bit of that more yogurty, vanilla, kind of Muller Corner type yogurty note coming out of the beer, which is quite interesting. But I think with that, we've covered the middle third of your palate in the beer. Let's go to the back third of your palate. And as I've often said, the back third of your palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, but just at sort of different intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there. You've got the wee touch of brown bread at the bottom, the fluffier white bread from the barley malt in the middle, the more dense sweety character on top of that. Then yeah, that sort of vanilla, spongy kind of character coming out of this one. But the base of the back third of your palate, you've got the kind of drier part of the bread crust in there, the cracker sitting on top of it, the wholemeal brown bready character kind of sits above that, and you've got a more kind of fluffy wholemeal brown bready character there, which feels a little bit lighter, taller, and more airy, if that makes sense, but also a little bit drier. The same from the fluffy white bready character sitting on top of that, and then yeah, you've got the more dense sweety white bready character there, which has a wee bit of bite to it, and then you've got that sort of vanilla sponge cakey character sitting on top of all of that. And then yeah, the on top of everything else, you've got that lovely kind of fluffy yeasty character coming out of the beer. So yeah, let's have a little look at that yeasty side of things then. So yeah, the yeasty side of this beer for me, at its core, it's got a sweeter, kind of more wholemeal, brown bready sort of character to it. So yeah, that sweeter wholemeal, brown bready character that comes out of this one, it's just lingering there. Then the very edge, around the edge of that, you've got like a more kind of mix of vanilla sponge and a fluffier white bready note to it. Then yeah, the very edge of that yeasty character is a little bit more crackery and like a fresh kind of white bready bread crust there, and yeah, that lingers into the aftertaste. But definitely there's this sort of vanilla yogurty kind of flavour that really lingers there in between the middle and back third of your palate for me. It's got a little bit of an almost Skittlesy character to it as well. That lingers into the aftertaste with this beer. So yeah, like vanilla sponge cake for me, and a little bit of that yogurty character are really what's making this beer a little bit sweeter. But it does, as I say, have that wee bit of more kettle sour zip to it, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, definitely back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller, and as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, and it just kind of compresses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think on the malty and yeasty side of things is quite nice. But as I say, I think maybe about 60% kettle sour this one, about 40% milkshake sour, I think is a good place to put this. But let's focus on the hoppy and fruity side of the beer then. So back corners of the palate, you've got a little touch of smooth earthiness in there, and I get the feeling it's probably like Hallertau or Tettnang hops, something quite light that's been used in this. So yeah, there's a little bit of that quite smooth earthiness there. As you move further forward, it's got a little bit of a kind of herbally, woody sort of thing going on. Then as you push further and further forward, it's got a little bit more floral aromaticity, and round the front curve of the tongue, it's just that wee bit lighter and more grassy, I would say. So yeah, the green component on this one is pretty kind of smooth, and that's what you'd expect. As I said before though, when you've got fruity adjuncts in the beer, that's going to suppress a wee bit your green component, and you can certainly see that that's happening here. I think you've got the kind of sharper pineapple around the kind of front edge of the tongue, and the softer passion fruit is just kind of sitting there around the back sides of the palate, though in fairness you do get an almost like lemon sherbety zip to the sides of your palate as well. So yeah, another interesting observation about this beer. But let's go to the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of things, and see what this beer's offering there. So yeah, the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again you get that little bit of bready build up in there, the kind of brown bready base, the fluffier white bread from the barley malt, the more dense wheaty note there, and then yeah, you have a little bit of that almost vanilla spongy character on top of that, and you can say the same of the base of that front third of your palate. Yeah, the, how would you say, white bready bread crust, the bit of Jacob's cream cracker, brown bread, fluffier white bread, the smoother side of the wheat. It really does show you that smooth side there. Some of the oats are kind of coming forward there as well and offering you a little bit of smoothness, and yeah, you've just got that little bit of vanilla kind of sponge cakey character pushing its way out of this beer as well. So yeah, I think that's the base, and then on top of that you do of course get the oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters from the hops roll their way out of the beer, and you've also got the adjuncts playing a role in this one as well. So let's have a wee look at that. So yeah, when you take the beer in, of course, you're going to get that little bit of almost like sherbety zip. So just behind the very front tip of the tongue, you can feel that kind of almost citrusy kind of attack on the palate, and then yeah, it mellows out and just gives you that nice kind of smoothness. So I think when it comes to the adjuncty side of the beer, the passion fruit is kind of sitting underneath. So if you go to the back of that front third of your palate, you can feel the softer, smoother passion fruit in there, and then the kind of more juicy and sharper pineapple kind of sits on top. And I think the pineapple fades away a little bit. I'm finding that the passion fruit is the one that really lingers there into the aftertaste, but within that you've also got that oily bubble with the juicy fruity esters. And for me, the fruity esters in this one, they're quite like apricotty. There's a lovely, yeah, they're quite apricotty. There's a lovely sort of, how would we say, little bit of, there's a wee bit of like a kind of sultana and oily peary kind of quality coming out of this one as well, which I think is great. So yeah, for me, that yeah, you've got that more, I think the way to describe this one, yeah, you can feel the sort of passion fruit is forming the backbone of the fruity side of this beer, and that lingers into the aftertaste. On top of that, you get that nice oily bubble where the fruity esters are coming out of the beer. So yeah, further back, it's got a little bit more of a kind of sultana type note. As you move further forward, it's a little bit more oily and peary, then it's got a wee bit more of a kind of citrusy, zesty type quality to it as well. And yeah, on top of that you get the kind of sharper pineapple side of this one coming out, which I think is really nice. So yeah, the passion fruit lingers into the aftertaste, the pineapple gives you a bit of attack, and then you've got all these other little fruity notes just pushing their way out of the beer too. So yeah, I think the way this one goes together is really quite interesting, and it does remind me more of the kind of fruity wheat beers that I've had over the years, but it finds a nice balance between being a kettle sour, which I think is a little bit more prominent in this one. It's like a slightly more, it's got like a, it's maybe a better way to describe this beer is that it's like 33% kettle sour, 33% like wheaty, kind of like a sort of fruity wheat beer, and then yeah, the other 33% is the kind of milkshake sour, because it's got that sweetness. I think it's like a three-way split is a good way to describe what's going on with this one. But as a fruity sort of summer beer, I think this one kind of ticks all the boxes, if you like. It is quite enjoyable. But yeah, let's round off the review then with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So for me, I'm feeling I'm getting a little bit of gas out of this one, because obviously it's the carbonation on this one did build up, so we can safely say that with this beer. But yeah, Mouthfeel wise then, let's round off with that. So for me, this beer, I'd say it's kind of bottom end of mid-bodied, top end of light-bodied. The carbonation does have a little bit of, the carbonation does have a little bit of kind of crispness to it as well. And yeah, I'm not sure if that's intentional though, because as I say, the can was sitting for a little bit in the fridge. But yeah, the carbonation in this one gives you a wee touch of crispness there, but it's quite a clean mouthfeel that you get out of this one. The IBU in this beer is going to be very low, like 5 or 10 at the absolute most. The malt base is a bit drier underneath, smoother in the middle, and kind of sweeter on top. The fruity character in this one, as I say, the passion fruit gives you a lovely soft backbone, but the pineapple gives you a little bit of sharper character out of it. And then yeah, the sour side of this one, it's not going to blow the head off you in terms of sourness. It's got a wee bit of attack in there, but then yeah, it gives you, so you've got a wee bit of that kind of kettle sour type attack in the beginning, but it just sort of mellows out a little bit later on, I would say. But all in all, I think a good way to describe this one is maybe, yeah, 33% kettle sour, 33% kind of milkshake sour if you like, and then 33% kind of fruity wheat beer, I think, or wheat beer. I think that's a good way to kind of summarise what's going on here. But all in all, a really nice beer, this one, and I would be curious to try more from this brewery going forward. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. It's been quite an interesting beer. So this one was the Creamfields, a 6.2% pineapple and passion fruit milkshake sour from Cervezas Río Azul in Seville, Andalucia in the south of Spain. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from this brewery as well, and we will see about returning to these guys again at some point in the fairly near future. But until the next time, check out my social media, check out Rio Azul's social media, and I'll catch you guys in another review very, very shortly. Sláinte, skål, cheers, and salut.